Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Leadership from the Heart. Today, I have with us Giulia Porro, who's a holistic life and business coach. She's certified in supporting women all around the world. She's a travel enthusiast, human design nerd, and a multi-passionate woman on a mission to help other women discover and become the authentic leader they're meant to be. Welcome, Giulia.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All the way from Milan.
Exactly. Milan, Italy. Yeah.
That's amazing. Let's start with the holistic, not the holistic
Mhm.
business coach, but let's start with human design. You're a human design nerd.
Yes. Yeah. And I know it's like human design is becoming more and more, let's say, mainstream, so to speak. So a lot of people, fortunately, um, are getting more familiar with human design, but
Right.
not enough. So there still has some work to be done in terms of like bringing that, and especially I think also in the corporate world, because as of now I think it's very interesting and very applied, and it's very you know mm, yeah, like studied, I would also say, by entrepreneurs, and in the entrepreneurial world, but very, very few people in the corporate world
Right.
use that. Very few people, very few leaders in the corporate world use human design to manage their teams and to understand how they function, yeah, on an energetic level. Because at the end of the day, that's what human design does.
Right.
It is. Do you know your type? Like before
Yeah,
me?
actually, I'm a generator. I just had mine pulled maybe like 9, 12 months ago.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm a
So
generator.
do you recognize yourself being a generator?
Very much so. I am go, go, go. The one thing I did not understand was it said
Mhm.
that my, I guess, digestion type was to eat out of
Mhm.
sunlight or
Mhm.
away from sunlight, which was different for me because I'm a morning person. But
Okay.
yeah, most of it was very spot on.
Mm. Spot on. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So it's basically, yeah, it is a combination of different tools and disciplines, like from astrology, the chakra system, and the Kabbalah, the I Ching, like many different tools. But yeah, at the end of the day, it really wants to give you an energetic map as to how you
Right.
function and as to how to make correct decisions for you in terms of like let's see how you can encounter less resistance in life. Let's see how you can make more
Mm,
aligned decisions so that your life basically is more flowing rather than you just hitting wall after wall after wall, because like you're not actually aligned to your design and you're trying to be something else, which is so common. Like you have no idea how many people I talk to, and when they discover their design, they're like, oh my God, so I've been doing everything wrong like for the past 30, 40, 45 years or whatever. I'm like, no, well, like societal conditioning and stuff. We're all on the same boat, right? When we
right.
discover human design, there is some deconditioning to be done, but I think it's also fun. It's an experiment. So yeah, I think it's really an useful tool both for women entrepreneurs as well as people in the corporate world to really understand more as to how they function, how to manage their energy, what is the like the talents, what are the talents, what is the potential that they are here to bring to the world. And this has so much to do with leadership and with what you do as well. So yeah, it's
For
super.
sure. So I have a two-part question. The first one is, do you see human design entering the corporate world sort of like a Myers-Briggs or like a DISC assessment, some of those
Mhm.
personality question quizzes that corporate America does embrace and helps
Mhm.
you understand who you are a bit more?
No.
You would like to, but no.
No, no, you know what? Because like all of those like tests and personality, quizzes and stuff, they really go from the mind. They really
Um,
assess everything from the mind. And the cool and also kind of like difficult thing about human design is that it really tells us that the mind is never the place from where we make aligned decisions, right?
Sure.
So it is a complicated and very articulated tool, but it is a body based tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the mind is so useful to do things like to analyze and to memorize and to count and, anything to do with numbers. Like the mind has obviously a role, especially in our society, but when it comes to really make aligned decisions for yourself, the mind is never the place from where you have to make those decisions, right? And so that's why it's also based on your astrology, like on your birth data, right? At the time of birth, day, and the location where you were born, because all of that is kind of like it's a fact. It
Right.
has nothing to do with your mind. And when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to those other types of tools, which again obviously play a role, and they can be, I guess, combined with human design and other disciplines and tools, but they come from a mind perspective. So it's so
Sure.
common that you answer questions with the idea, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be answering, or
Right.
where there is a spectrum where you have to like rate yourself from 1 to 10. And for example, what happens to me is that so often I put myself into a 5 because I'm like, I'm not in that spectrum of
Right.
no, absolutely not. The thing is so far away from me, and I'm not either a 10, which is yes, all in. I do that all the time and stuff like that.
Right.
Put myself in the middle of a 5, but most likely this 5 comes from me being conditioned in terms of like I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be, too much in a sense or the other, in a way or the other, right? And with human design, this doesn't happen, and that's also why a lot of people don't recognize themselves into their
Very
design,
good point.
basically. Yeah.
Very good point. And so my second question is there a tool that helps people like me also do human design for, let's say, my team? And then how do we incorporate that and work better together, knowing who we are in human design or knowing our type in human design? Is there a
Mhm.
tool for that yet?
No, not that I'm aware of. Like you can definitely go online. There are a bunch of
Sure.
websites that obviously, give you your chart, but at some point you have to interpret that. So you either, read books, you get certified, or you work with a human design expert. But yeah, in order to like fit all the pieces together, there has some, let's say, some work to be done on your end. But I think that everyone who is a coach or has some sort of role in facilitating other people and processes, it can definitely come easier, because you have this ability to see others and to lead others. So if you incorporate human design in
Mm.
all of the
Mm.
other skills and tools that you have, it will make sense at some point with either some help from an expert or with some study on your end. But it's totally doable. Yeah, because at the end of the day, this is what it does. When it comes to teams, it helps you see patterns and see people for who they truly are, despite the mask that they might be wearing,
Right.
especially in the corporate world. Like, about that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, I like where you're going with this, and I'm understanding it a lot more as to how valuable the tool actually is. Um, let's dive a little bit deeper into human design because I want people to understand, first of all, what human design is, and then maybe give some examples as to you can either use your type or if you know
Hmm.
the generator, we can use my type
Yeah,
as
yeah,
to
yeah.
what type.
Yeah, I'm actually a subtype of the generator type. Like there are 5 types in human design. The generator, which is the most common type, approximately 70% of the population is a generator. And for example, am a manifesting generator, which is a subtype. So I'm a hybrid between a generator and a manifester. Then there is the projector, and then there is the pure manifester and the reflector. So it's 5 types. 5 types. And basically the generators are here to do and to work, right? Like they are the builders, right? What makes them a generator, it's their sacral center, right?
Mhm.
Because as I was saying before, human design is also based on the chakra system, right?
Mhm.
We don't call them chakras, we call them centers, right? So there is the sacral center, which is located in your gut, that is the center for life force and for energy, for creativity, right? So everyone who is a generator or a manifesting generator has this sacral center, we call it defined,
Hmm.
meaning that we do have a consistent and sustainable access to this energy, to the life force energy, to creativity, right? It means that we are here to work, to build things, right? And to have this sustainable energy, but we have to be only involved and engaged in activities, in projects with people that our sacral gets lit up too, right? So if we do things, projects, work, whatever, that doesn't really light us up, that doesn't feel exciting for our sacral center, it's not a hell yes, but it's then it's a hell no. So we should never get into these types of, activities, projects, work, and whatever, right? So it's really important for generators to understand that the fact that they do have the energy to sustain a project, work, whatever, it doesn't mean that they should, right?
Hmm.
Having the energy is not enough to actually being aligned with the thing that they're about to do, right? So the most important thing for generators is to always check in with their sacral center and really ask themselves, is this a hell yes for me, or is this a no? What types of sounds maybe does my sacral do? Maybe it's a when it's a yes, for example, that's for me, or when it's a no. So it's really paying attention and really cultivating a relationship to your body and especially to your sacral center, right? So you're a generator, so whenever things come your way, because also you have to respond to life. This is also a very important thing for generators. Generators, despite the fact that they do have this immense amount of energy, they're not here to initiate, they're not here to push, to force, to make things happen. They don't get the ball rolling, they just really respond to life.
Mm.
So as soon as something comes their way, an opportunity, an idea, whatever comes their way, they get to respond. And
Right.
how do they respond? They respond from their sacral. So it's really responding and cultivating this sacral, this relationship with your sacral center, and just really move in the direction of whatever your sacral actually wants you to move. So this is for the pure generator type.
That's very cool. That actually was explained differently. I understand it a lot more now. And it makes a lot of sense because I do find myself responding a lot to life. And when I do respond, creativity flows so much more um, in
Cool.
response to whatever's being presented. Like I could be somewhere and
Mm,
start to see the operation of a business and start to create from there.
yeah,
It's not my creation. It didn't start with me. So that makes a lot of sense for me. That's wonderful.
awesome,
Thank you. Thank you. I
awesome.
can see how that can be helpful
Yeah,
in coaching women specifically on accepting themselves as they are and then starting from there.
yeah, totally. And I think that so much deconditioning has to be made, like also in general when it comes to human design, because we get always bombarded with this idea that like just do it, and if you don't make things happen for yourself, they won't happen. Like there is this glorification of
Mm.
the hustle, so to speak, right? And this is really different in human design, because human design says that only the manifester type, the pure manifester type, can do that. Like they can have, a download, an idea, a dream, or whatever, and they can just, manifest it into the world. But the fun thing is that manifestors are 9% of the whole
Right.
population, right? So what happens to the other 91% of us, So we get to, in some shape or form, respond because we're not generated, we're not manifestors. So we don't have this innate capacity to just initiate things. And the cool thing of human design also, like there are many cool things, but each type is useful, you know, for the community. You
Right.
know, projectors are useful because they are the leaders, the guides, and generators are the builders. Manifestors are the ones who actually initiate the project. So all types are useful. All types have, their own talents, their own, things to really leverage. And I think that's really the beauty of human design. No type is better than the other, and
Yeah.
we all have to work on ourselves, and we all have to experiment, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It's almost like a tribe. Everybody's kind of just bartering off of everybody else's skill set, which
Yeah.
is beautiful, which is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
Very cool.
I love that. And it was probably one of the biggest realization for me,
For you.
also when navigating my, my shift from the corporate world to the entrepreneurial world, was also to embrace my human design. This helped and helps still a lot when it comes
Yeah,
to.
is that what kind of how did it happen for you, the shift?
It was not overnight,
Right.
despite what so many people in the online space tell you it should be done. Like I quit, and in 6 months, I was able to replace my corporate salary. Like, well, good for you. That's not what happened to me. No, it was really. Over a period of time. I still have one foot in the corporate world. I do diversity and inclusion projects. So, I mean, I'm consulting, but still, with one foot in the corporate world. But yeah, not in a 9 to 5 anymore. So yeah, it happened very gradually, over a couple of years. Um, yeah, that's basically how that happened, and how I suggest my clients to do as well, if that's possible for them, and obviously if they're not in a soul sucking job and
Right.
whatever. It's really wise to, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. I think that's the
Yeah.
saying. And really, try and build things from a more sustainable um, place, because I mean, entrepreneurship is hard. You know that. We all know that it's a very, it's really probably the best way to work on yourself, and it's
Hmm.
probably the best, like, self development gym that you can have a membership with. So yeah, no, it's definitely hard navigating that. So the more you have tools to also regulate your
Hmm.
nervous system, and the more you feel secure while transitioning from a corporate job to an entrepreneurial project, the better, obviously. So I'm definitely not an advocate for like the quantum leaps and the quit everything and just um, imagine yourself to be an overnight success. That's not how I work, because I think your nervous system gets really, really traumatized by that. So yeah,
Sure.
we don't want that. We don't want that.
Yeah, it's that sort of burn the boats theory,
Yeah.
and what people don't understand is, what I think people don't understand is
Mhm.
that when you're coming from that energy of needing it now because you don't
Yeah.
have the regular income, then you're
Yeah.
coming from such a desperate energy.
Yeah. Flat.
Everything feels
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's why I agree with you. I agree that steady Eddie, going at it slow, having an end date, working your plan, is absolutely necessary. And so, yes, entrepreneurship is the hardest thing you will ever do. You will come face to face with all of your deepest fears, and it's up to you to either push through it and overcome it, for the
Mhm.
sake of you and your family, or not. So I agree with you on all of that.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And also, I mean, in my experience, there's people who again like glorify this idea of becoming an entrepreneur, when really, because it's so mainstream and it's so trendy right now, it's so appealing, but maybe they're really, like, their why is not big enough. They think they want it, and on a surface level, again, from a mind perspective, they actually want it, but
Mhm.
so many other things come into play, and actually while working together we discovered that it's not really what they want.
Mm.
Because yes, they want the freedom, but security is way more important to them. Or yes, maybe they have like this entrepreneurial idea, but they are more than okay to develop that on just as a side project,
Right.
especially with people who are multi-passionate people. I see myself as a multi-passionate woman, and I would probably not thrive in a very structured and single career or entrepreneurial project. I love the fact of having multiple streams of income and multiple ideas, and maybe I dedicate myself to one project for 1 year, and then the project is over and I'm
Right.
done with it, and I'm moving to the next thing. Like, there are obviously common threads between what I do, but also not necessarily. And so I think that for so many people, it could be such a relief to say, hey, maybe I do have, a passion. Maybe I do want to make more money. Maybe the 9 to 5 is not really, my idea of success, but I am more than okay to, develop a side project, develop a side,
Right.
a paid hobby, or whatever, a creative outlet that helps me feel more aligned and more happy and more excited. It doesn't have to necessarily be the 6 or 7 figure entrepreneurial project, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So, and I think again,
Absolutely.
women get so confused in that as well, because you're either in the corporate world or you're like completely like you're smashing it, you're a 7 figure entrepreneur, babe. But maybe that's really not what you want, right?
Yeah, there's an in between. I like that. And I like the fact that you help people figure out the in between because you're right. Um, I've never thought about, making this a hobby, right? I'm always like, no, this is the
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
And you're absolutely right. It could very well be satisfying as just a side hustle for another stream of income, and
Yeah.
that could be okay.
Yeah.
So, very
Yeah.
good perspective. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
No, no
Thank
worries. I mean, it's so liberating. It was so liberating for me because, again, entrepreneurship is hard. So, what happens if you only jump into entrepreneurship for the money or
you.
for
Right.
the quote unquote success? Like,
Hmm.
but then who defines success? If, like, your neighbor Samantha decides what success looks like for you, then maybe you will end up playing by the rules that Samantha is playing with,
Yep.
but you're not her. So yeah, and again, it's so easy to really get caught up in other people's definition of success and entrepreneurship, and it's so important to really get back the focus on yourself and really discover what does success mean to me, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
what do you want? Like, what do you want? I think that's very important. Something that people don't spend enough time on. What
totally,
do you want?
totally.
Beautiful. Shifting gears a little bit more towards leadership, I know that
Mhm.
here at Leadership from the Heart, we believe that real leaders are made and not born, although we were told that, you know, people
Yeah.
are born leaders. So what do you think about the quote? And then two, what qualities do you think or skills do you think help
Mhm.
a person transform into being a great leader?
Yeah, I love that quote, and I think I had it on my website because, yeah, I mean, obviously there is some like natural, like inclination,
Sure.
and obviously, but yeah, I think it's something that you really get to learn. Well, first, I guess unlearn that leadership is only for top managers. I think this is a myth that needs to be debunked. Like, leaders have to be top executives. At the end of the day, like, a mother of 3 children is probably a great leader.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Mhm.
yeah, like, this idea that leadership is only to be defined in the corporate world and is only to be associated to the kind of like the level that you have in your company or in your business, I think it's so wrong and it's so misleading. And
Mhm.
so everyone can learn to be a leader, meaning they learn how to lead themselves first. And I think this this comes so much with self-reflection,
Mhm.
because how can you lead others? How can you see others if you don't see yourself? And
Yes.
I mean, it's probably easier to see others than to see yourself. Mm, but still some sort of self-reflection and some sort of like in deep inner work has to be done, I think, in order for people to become leaders. So yeah, it's definitely something that can be acquired and that can be learned. And obviously, like self-confidence, if you grew up in an environment that fostered your self-confidence, obviously it will be easier, for
Right.
instance, just to take one example with self-confidence. But that's definitely not the only trait. There is empathy, there is
Mhm.
being able to actively listen to other people, again, to manage their energy, to be able to see, hey, this is probably where you could, I don't know, thrive more,
Right.
or maybe this is something that would work best for your type of energy, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, and all of these things are not innate. They are
Right.
acquired. They are acquired, and it needs to be some work. There has to be some work.
Yeah, I would even venture to say that if you don't do the work on yourself to self reflect, then you're actually seeing everybody else through like your lens, which is
Mm,
not a very clear lens until you actually get to like strip away the programming. And it's never done,
mm,
but I
yeah,
agree with you that you can see people from your skewed view if you don't do the work yourself.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
You see things from your perspective. You expect others to be exactly like you are.
Yeah.
And again, human design helps a lot, but also, a bunch of other tools. But it's really also be able to put yourselves in the shoes of other people and see like from where they come from.
Right.
What are their needs? What drives them? What are their desires? How do they function? Their maybe trauma responses, for a leader, it's so important
Yeah.
to understand, like maybe this person had like such a huge reaction and this anger that came out or whatever. Where did that come from?
Right. Yeah, I think as leaders, it's not just leading the overall corporate goal anymore. I think it has a lot more to do with people and regulating their emotions and understanding where they're coming from. And I say that like my job in the corporate world is just to help. I'm like a therapist. My door's always
Mhm.
open. You come in, and literally just my job is just to hear you out, understand, of course, fix problems that arise and do my
Yeah,
job. But for the most part, you're kind of just listening and helping people regulate themselves and talk it out. And,
yeah,
to do that, you have to understand empathy and emotional intelligence. So, yeah, for sure. I like this quote that you put in our little guide here about relaxed leadership. I'm very
Mhm.
intrigued by that. And I want to know more.
Yeah, yeah, that's something that I came up with, I don't know, last year or something like that. And yeah, the two words are probably not very often associated, like a
Sure.
relaxed leadership. Again, leader has to be, like the strong person and who is leading everyone else. There is some sort of like authority that comes into play, but it's really something that doesn't get associated with being very regulated and being
Mm,
very calm and being very, also a component of maybe slow business, like, this type of relaxation and sustainability and
mm,
slow. Um, so yeah, I really liked the fact of combining those two apparently different words, but I think they make a lot of sense together. They make a lot of sense together. So my idea of relaxed leadership is really the opposite, of the hustle culture that gets so, rewarded, quote unquote, and glorified, both in the entrepreneurial world and the corporate world, right? So
mm,
I really want, and I think our missions are so aligned. I really want to support people in being leaders for themselves first, so that they can then, be inspiring for other people and lead them, So this really comes again from a place of being calm and of being in a place where you get to self-reflect, and in a place where you have tools to regulate your nervous system. um, so yeah, it's really the opposite of the go 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 culture. Obviously, money plays a role in feeling successful. Like, that's common
Of
for
course.
everyone, most likely. And it doesn't mean that we don't get to work hard. So it's not all, like rainbows and unicorns. But I really want people to incorporate self-expression and
Mhm.
creativity and playfulness in their business as well, because business and also like your work, they need to sustain your desired lifestyle. It's not the other way around, right? So work or business is not just, another piece of the puzzle that you need to squeeze in, right? It's actually an important tool that helps you and that enables you to live the life that you want,
Yeah.
right? So that's why, the relaxed leadership comes comes into play, because it's like, okay, let's do that from a place of relaxation, of alignment with
Right.
yourself and with your values, and what is your desired lifestyle, and how can your business or your corporate job help you live that, basically.
Hmm.
It's the other way around.
So if I'm an employee and my leader is adopting this relaxed leadership
Mhm.
um, psychology or mindset,
Mhm.
what does that feel like for me as the employee?
Mhm.
If you
You
could
would
describe.
probably, yeah, you would probably feel more seen,
Mm,
you know? You would probably feel more seen. You would probably feel more empowered to be more of you, more
yeah.
of who you are, rather than, conforming to other people who maybe have a completely different energy. Maybe they are go, 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 and it's totally cool, because again, there are people who have more energy. There are people who are
Right.
here to work more, right? But also, some other people function completely differently, right? So it's really important for leaders to see who they work with, and to
Yeah.
empower them to really feel and be themselves, and so as
Yeah.
an employee, you would probably feel, yeah, that you have a permission slip to really be more of who you are, right? And it doesn't mean that you don't work, that you don't put in, the hours, the work, and whatever. But it's really, I get to be me, and I get to thrive in an environment that really sees me and that wants to leverage my uniqueness and my special energy, and the special gifts that I bring to the table. Yeah.
Yeah. That's power. I feel like that's very powerful because that means everybody gets to play their all out game. And I believe that good teams, great teams, always have all the pieces that they need. They
Mhm.
just haven't figured out what piece goes where. And to
Yeah.
your point, it doesn't mean you're going to put me in this job description. You're going to first, yes, this job description or this job needs to be filled, but I
Yeah.
have all these other skills
Yeah.
that could help in this other facet, and allowing me to play in both worlds
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
definitely that feels good. All of that, what you just said, felt so good. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I think it feels like a relief for so many
yeah,
people, and it's this and that you
yes,
were touching on also before. It's really having the ability and the permission to be this and that, and
right,
use your uniqueness and your talents in like where they are more needed, so you can be a bit of this and a bit of that. And maybe you have one role, you wear one hat in the corporate world, and then you wear a different hat in your own business. And yes, it's this and that. Yeah.
yeah. You get to like be your conventional or your corporate self, and it's your whole self. And I think that we're moving towards a more whole self
Hmm.
workplace, corporate, call it what you will. But I think people are wanting to bring their entire self to work. They don't want to have to leave the parts that they love about themselves at the door because I'm here to just make your dreams come true or punch the clock. Or I do feel that shift definitely happening. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah. That's
very
good
cool.
news. That's good news. Yeah.
So, I guess my last question,
Mhm.
I'm very intrigued as to what you do in DE&I in Italy and what that looks like. I know you said it's one foot in the corporate world as a
Yeah,
consultant. So
yeah.
where do you see it? Where do you see it going? And what are the barriers?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I am consulting. I am consulting within the American Chamber of Commerce here in Italy. But yeah, obviously our companies, like our member companies, are Italian, like they are
Of
in
course.
Italy, but obviously they can be, American companies. Most of them are American companies or American law firms who
Okay.
have that have obviously, a branch here in Milan or here in Italy. So yeah, basically what we do in terms of DNI, it's basically in the realm of our advocacy activities. Obviously,
Mhm.
as a Chamber of Commerce, we want to give voice to our members, and we want our members and the industries that our members represent to be heard and to be seen, right? So we definitely want to speak about DNI more. And where we are at, I mean, some progress obviously has been made in Italy, especially by our member companies that
Sure.
are American. So
Yeah.
that's probably also the difference, because if you speak with, let's say, a quote unquote, like very normal and average Italian company, usually those are SMEs, like
Mm.
very
Sure.
small companies or medium companies. So obviously there is still some resistance when it comes to adopting DNI practices and activities, because the thought goes to, yeah, well, but I don't have the budget for this,
Hmm.
or I
Hmm.
cannot hire a person, or well, it's not really what we do, or like there is this very there is this patriarchal approach still in some kind of like old fashioned companies. So a lot of work needs to be done, but still some progress has been made. Yeah, and it's really cool to see how many companies are really implementing DNI activities, seeing that it's not like rocket, like it doesn't have to be rocket science.
Right.
You know, because oftentimes they really think, oh my God, I have to like organize, the most complicated things and activities and hire this person and how much budget. Like it really starts with awareness. It can also
Hmm.
be simple start with, talking about that. With seeing that diversity and inclusion is actually a leverage to make more money at the end of the
Yep.
day. We all know that diverse teams actually perform better.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that the fact that we are talking about that, it's really progress.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of work needs to be done, and the most important activities and projects are being developed by huge companies, by American companies, by, very important and structured companies who that have obviously a branch here in Italy. So it's definitely a bit more tricky and a bit more challenging for the very small company in Italy. But still, there has to be a ripple effect at some point, So I'm very confident that also inspired by those other bigger corporations, also the SMEs will, approach DNI to the best of their capacity.
Sure.
Obviously, the
Right.
budget is different and the capacity is different, but each and everyone I think can play their role and implement their activities and their diverse and inclusive mindset with their employers. So with their employees. So yeah, I think it's really more about willingness and about really debunking some myths and some mindset blocks, so to speak, rather than it is a structural problem, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, I feel like in what you said, it's a lot of small companies and still here in America, very relevant. Um, they think it's adding an activity is like a but instead of an and.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you could give a small, medium-sized company an activity to do that would increase their awareness, what's the first smallest thing they could do just so that they could be aware? Because you and I understand that,
Yeah.
reflection and self-awareness is
Hmm.
the first step.
Hmm. I think that, like being in environments where they get to be inspired, by
Mm,
their leaders, and they get to kind of like be assured that they
it's
don't
okay.
have to complete that it's okay, and they don't completely have to, like to rethink and completely reframe and restructure their business, their how they work, how they function, but it's really also about small tweaks that they can implement on a daily
Right,
basis, and again, each and everyone has their own potential, and their
right,
own
right.
power also in implementing these types of activities. So I think it's really networking with the right people,
Mhm.
getting inspired by other leaders, be in rooms with people, um, who can really share best practices and share that it's really not rocket science. It gets to be easy and simple, so yeah, that.
Yeah, and it's also what's right for you and your company, right? Like whatever that means for you and your company. Here in the US, we have everybody is, on the DEI train, which is wonderful, but it's now competitive, right? And so if
Mm,
they're doing this, we're doing that. And if they're doing this and you lose the sense of purpose in
yeah,
that
yeah.
competitiveness.
Hmm.
So I think that companies just have to do what's right for them and be able to stand by that and say, this is what's right for us right now. And this is as far as we're willing to go. And when we're willing to look at it, we'll look at it again. I think that's also very meaningful.
Exactly, exactly. And I think also, with DNI, there is, a lot of pink washing, as there was like greenwashing with the whole, sustainability train. Like, all those things are trends, in some way, but still, even though they are trends, they are useful. So no matter how
Correct.
you look at them,
Correct.
they are needed. So just find your own way to
Yep.
implement those things, like despite what other people are doing, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Julia, final thoughts.
I wasn't prepared for a No, I mean, I loved our conversation, and I think that what people could, take home with them is, I guess, that they can be leaders, they can be effective leaders, no matter their job title, and no matter how high they are in the corporate ladder, and no matter how much money they make as entrepreneurs, no matter how new they are to the business and to the industry. It's really about being able to self-reflect and to be aware and to work on yourself, so that you can also get to inspire others and lead others. So it's really not about how much you have accomplished or how much money you make. It's really how you are able to see others and meet others where they're at, and really help them thrive, right? So that's, I think, probably the most important thing that I would love to get across. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. And where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook. They can find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm not sure if we can then share a couple of links where they can either
Yes.
book a chat with me or a human design session or whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Julia's links to her social media will be in the show notes.
Awesome.
Um, yes, Julia, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having
All
me.
the way from Milan, Italy, Giulia Porro, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Leadership from the Heart. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you on the next episode.